indeed. Well, look, let's move on to Israel then, and what they're up to with Yemen.
Yes, so it all began, of course, it all began back on the 7th of October, and it began, again, the war against Yemen began, if people don't remember, back in March 2015, a totally illegal aggression by Saudi Arabia after even the UN peace envoy to Yemen had stated that there was no need for aggression. Yemen had politically resolved its issues. So a few days ago, Yemen targeted Ben Gurion airport in Israel, bypassing effectively 4 layers of air defense, starting in Saudi Arabia and then with the American THAAD system and the various Israeli air defense systems to create a crater of 25 meters in depth. This, of course, caused the shutdown of Ben Gurion Airport and the threat by Yemen to impose an air blockade combined with their naval blockade in the Red Sea. So Israel and the US carried out combined strikes against Sana'a, the capital city of Yemen. And if we roll the video, I'll just talk through it. So US bombed Sana'a, the capital city, while Israel bombed the Yemeni Sana'a main airport, targeting civilian aircraft, the runways, the arrival and departure terminals, killing 4 people and injuring 39, claiming that they disabled the airport fully. Of course, that claim has been made quite a few times, 2015. But what we must remember is that the US and Israel have admitted themselves that they have absolutely no on-the-ground intelligence in Yemen, unlike within their neighboring countries in the region, like Syria and Lebanon, for example. And this is Mohamad Al Shami, a Yemeni commentator on X, who went on saying that it's reported that they bombed Sana'a airport terminal, service facilities at the airport, as well as civilian aircraft, as I said, and the Amran cement factory. And then let's have a look. This was a bit of a surprise announcement by President Trump in the last 24 hours. So let's play his announcement.
We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that. And we will stop the bombings. And they have capitulated. But more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore. And I will accept their word. And we are going to stop the bombing of the Houthis, effective immediately.
Now, I would suggest, and I'd be interested in other people's opinions, but the hubris that Trump was displaying there does suggest that the Yemenis did not capitulate, and I'll come on to explain why in a minute. But what was particularly interesting is that Israel was issuing, or various authorities in Israel were issuing statements saying that they were shocked at the US Houthi ceasefire, claiming that Trump had given them absolutely no heads up. And if we look at one commentator on X, who says basically, as he explained 1 month ago, the Houthis, or Ansarullah as they should be known, only started attacking US ships after Trump started bombing Yemen to retaliate on Israel's behalf. So the actual ceasefire, although it's good news, but it simply takes us back to March 2025 as regards conditions, because Israel is not included in this ceasefire, and that's a very important point to make here. And then shortly after this, Trump made, in inverted commas, a big announcement. So let's have a listen, or rather, he promised a big announcement. Let's listen to this statement to the press.
And we'll have, maybe before we're going to, as you know, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, we're going to UAE and Qatar, and that'll be, I guess, Monday night. Some of you are coming with us. I think before then we're going to have a very, very big announcement to make, like as big as it gets, and I won't tell you on what, but it's going to, and it's very positive. I'd tell you if it was negative or positive. I can't keep that up. It is really, really positive. And that announcement will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before we leave. But it'll be one of the most important announcements that have been made in many years about a certain subject, very important subject. So you'll all be here.
Apparently, the Washington Post released today that the big announcement is that the Persian Gulf, which has been known as such since the 16th century, is about to be renamed the Arabian Gulf. So not only do we now have the Gulf of America as opposed to the Gulf of Mexico, we have another name change by Trump. This is according to certain officials within the US administration, yet to be confirmed. And I'm sure that the 3-day ceasefire had nothing to do with the fact that Trump is going to the Gulf countries, which would be number one on the target list from Yemen. And also, of course, that bombing any of those countries would seriously impact on the US economy, as it could potentially destroy the oil sector in those Gulf areas. So, but I'm sure that has nothing to do with it. I'm sure it's because the Yemenis wanted to capitulate. And then let's have a look at how well the US has actually been doing against Yemen. So titles yesterday in CNN: second US Navy jet is lost at sea from the Truman aircraft carrier. This one apparently was due to a failed arrestment. The pilots basically bailed out before the disaster happened, and the jet ended up at the bottom of the Red Sea. Of course, this isn't the first time. There was another jet, jet overboard, lost a 60 million jet at sea. This was in April. And actually, there was a third one, which people may not remember, back in December last year. This was reported in Aviation. In December, another FA-18F Super Hornet was shot down by US Navy cruiser USS Gettysburg in a friendly fire incident. So the US is not exactly performing terribly well against Yemen. It's certainly done nothing to prevent the targeting of the US aircraft carriers in the Red Sea. And then let's have a quick add up of the damage since the Al-Aqsa flood operations on the 7th of October. So 3 Hornets, 67 million each. So that's 201 million, 22 MQ-9s since the 7th of October, 4 MQ-9s, which are the drones, of course, before October the 7th. So the total so far is 1.03 billion US dollars. And on social media, a few people went to town with images of how well the US is doing as regards the loss, in inverted commas, of aircraft. On the left was a Yemeni joke. On the right was a Russian joke. I'm sure that has nothing to do with conditions elsewhere also. And of course, this, on a more serious level, this was a warning from the New York Times about 2 months ago. US commanders worry that the Yemen campaign will drain arms needed to deter China. So potentially another reason, of course, that Trump is looking for the US to pull out of any aggression against Yemen. And then let's have a look at Yemen's response, remembering, of course, that Israel is not included in the ceasefire. So the Humanitarian Coordination Center in Sana'a, Yemen, has officially notified the ICAO and the IATA, their airline associations, of the Yemeni armed forces' decision to impose an indefinite air traffic ban on Israel, which again will have huge ramifications for Israeli trade and economy. And then finally, this was a statement put out by the president of the Salvation Government in Yemen, President Mahdi al-Mashat, Supreme Political Council in Yemen. There will be no retreat from supporting Gaza, no matter the cost. What happened proves that our strikes are effective and will continue. No aggression will deter us from our just decision to support Gaza until the Zionist aggression and siege on Gaza are halted. So Yemen has absolutely no intention of stopping its attempt to prevent genocide and punish the Zionist entity for committing genocide against Palestinians.
Thank you, Vanessa. Well, let's move on from there.